Good evening. This is Adrenaline Radio, 1680 AM on your dial. I'm Fred Blanchard, your host of Adrenaline Motorsports. And our in-studio guest this evening is Craig Railsback. How did you get into the electronic fuel injection, the EFI? Where did that come from?
I was always involved in being able to make more horsepower and trying to be more successful in tuning. And one of the prospects of that EFI is it's not being controlled by mechanical componentry. It is something that you can actually configure and tune and change based on the input of the sensors. So my thought process early on, clear back in 1980, was I wanted to be involved in electronic fuel injection. It was a future as far as I could see.
Well, how did you decide on what product or what manufacturer's product to involve yourself with? I know there's a multitude of them out there.
There are today, but back in 1980, there was only one company that actually sold an aftermarket fuel injection system. That was a company called Air Sensors out of Seattle, Washington.
Huh.
They had the first 50 promised to B&M for the B&M blower projects, and I bought serial number 36 out of the first 50 because I was so tenacious and bugging the individuals about that I wanted to be involved in it, and they sold me a unit.
And how did they provide their service? How did they come to you? And
it came in a box, like everybody else's stuff.
So their service came in a box, huh?
Yep.
And how big was the service manual? I guess that would be the question I would ask next.
Probably about 50 pages for something that was a fuel-only, no-spark electronic injection.
I see.
And that was in the very early stages of EFI as we know it today. Actually, that was like Noah's Ark back then. It was so configured basic, and it was mass air, and it was hot wired. It's like the new cars are today, but it was only a fuel-only system, not a spark and fuel.
Did you look into other systems like Axel and people like that? Did you?
Excel wasn't in business yet.
I see.
I actually worked with the Air Sensors engineering group for 3 years trying to develop their product to make the kind of equipment that I needed for my sales. And I finally gave up on them because I just couldn't be successful with what they were trying to tell us to do.
What kind of components were you asking them to provide? Give me some idea of what you had to go through.
I was trying to get them to give me some more quality as far as the ability of the equipment involved. And I didn't realize at the time that I needed to ask different questions that I was asking. I was trying to push them to develop what I needed, and they didn't understand what I needed. I met, in 1984, I met a young man that was head of his own little electronics group. He was actually at a car show back east, and one of my guys in our road crew met him and introduced himself, and the next thing I know, I get a phone call from a gentleman by the name of John Meany. John Meany today is basically the Bill Gates of the EFI world. He's hardcore engineering and product development and designed the DFI, digital fuel injection, and that's where I first started with John, with a Generation 4 ECU, which turned into the Generation 5 ECU and eventually into the Generation 6 ECU when Excel purchased them. John is very hands-on engineering, and we work so well together. We're like brothers. I mean, we get along very well.
The ECU that Excel currently uses is, what's the system called again, please?
It's Generation 7 is the current product that they do.
I see.
John left the company, I believe, in '89. And went off to do his own thing again. I kept track of John because we were good friends by then. And John developed a new electronic fuel injection system and was introduced to somebody over at Felpro Industries. And they became good friends with John, and they made John head of their electronics division. That's where the Felpro EFI came from.
I'm familiar with some of the names in the marketplace. I am not that familiar with the systems, but I know there's... Big Stuff 3, I guess, was one of the ones I first encountered it because I'd never initially got into the street rod side of it. But as we at the Arias Company started to build what we would consider a crate engine or a custom crate engine with a supercharger on it, we learned about the Big Stuff 3 and then later, I think it was Fast XFI, I think of something like that. But there again, Are these systems that are something that you work with today, or there's something beyond that? Or
Yes, we worked with all of those systems and some of the stuff that's still coming, and the new products are coming now. The Excel DFI group actually did their own thing and is still doing it today. Now, when John left and the Felpro took over and made John head of that division when they had the Felpro Electronics division, John developed the product and it was much, much more successful. And eventually that got sold out to Scooter Brothers over Comp Cams, and that's where the Fast came from.
Enlighten us a little bit as to what's currently being done there in EFI and what's going on right now and what you're involved with.
Well, I think one of the most important things about the industry today is the support that their customers require. And in the beginning, we had a DOS-based program, which virtually I had to be with the vehicle to help the customer. In today's world, if the customer has an internet connection at home, and we have a laptop that we can hook to the car that is connected to the internet as well, I can actually take over the laptop over the internet and do the remote tuning from my office. So I don't have to be anywhere close to the vehicle.
What kind of connections are required for this, Craig? Give us some insight here on that.
There's a internet software program called Team Viewer that we use that gives us a remote control concept of connecting to a different laptop. As long as the software that is required to tune that motor is in that laptop and it can be connected to the internet, I can help.
So if he buys a EFI system, there's a disc that comes with it that he can interface.
Yeah, the disc always comes with the package.
I see. And so based on that, now the connection has to be from the laptop to the system that he purchases. Is that correct?
There's a communication cable that comes with the package.
I see.
That plugs into the laptop and then to the car as well.
Okay. And then you then have access or are allowed access to the individual's computer, which allows you then to guide him along the way.
Yeah, our ability to support the individual in a remote control process like this is complete. We can actually do everything but the fine-tuning adjustments individually of adjusting throttle opening or a TPS position. They have to physically do that, but under our instructions, we can direct what we need done.
So how many sensors are you finding today that's actually required to make a system function? I know that like you just mentioned, the throttle positioning sensor, or the TPS. Then you have the, I think there's one that goes into the exhaust system. That's another one.
Yeah, that's a lambda sensor. You have the coolant temp sensor, an air temp sensor, a throttle position, and a manifold pressure sensor if you're using speed density for tuning.
And so that's pretty much what a guy needs, and those provisions for those sensors are pretty much on the engine with the exception of the exhaust system. Is that pretty much it, or how does
No, the electronics actually uses different sensors than even the factory stuff.
Oh, really?
Although we do use some stock GM factory equipment because it's so popular and any parts store handles it, so we can get it any place in the country.
Wow. Well, it sounds like to me that the blower systems that are provided today by BDS, and on top of the blower system comes the EFI systems, which you now you market these packages yourself. Is that correct?
I actually designed the original equipment and am involved in marketing it, yes.
I see.